In this short video, I would like to say a few words about the inflection of verbs for person in Somali. If we start by having a look at the English verb and the inflection for person in English, we can see that there is very little inflection. English only has a suffix, an ending in the third person singular, an S, that is added to the present tense forms to express that the verb refers to a single person in the third person singular. But many other European languages, such as German, French, Spanish, Russian, as well as Arabic, have many more forms of the verbs with respect to person. So, for example, in Spanish, there are 6 different endings expressing the 6 different persons that a Spanish verb differentiates between. So if the verb refers to I, it will end in O, and if it refers to you in the singular, this kind of verb would end in as, and he, she makes the verb end in a, and so on. What about Somali? Well, Somali has 7 forms of a verb, 7 forms expressing persons, and the additional one is due to the fact that in the third person singular there is a distinction in Somali between masculine and feminine gender. Sorry, it's in Swedish. So that there is one form referring to she does or did something, and another form referring to he does or did something. And these 2 forms are very convenient to use as the base form of verbs in the present tense, as they together give you the key to the whole inflection of a Somali verb. So it's very good to learn both the masculine and the feminine form of every new verb that you encounter. How are these 7 persons expressed or marked in Somali? Well, basically there are only 2 markers, 2 morphemes that mark all these persons. An N is added to all the forms in the plural. So we and you and they in the plural all contain the suffix n, n. And the suffix t marks the second person, you, both in the singular and in the plural. And the t has also a second function. It expresses the feminine third person singular, she. So the t has kind of 2 different functions, the second person and she, the feminine form of the third person singular. We add n to all the plural forms of a verb. And we also add a t to the second person. And this means that the second person plural will contain both a t and an n at the same time. And then also the T for the third person singular feminine form, she. So now this is the complete set of person markers in the Somali verb inflection. But in order to be able to pronounce these forms, we also need a vowel together with these consonants. And the vowel has the function of expressing time or tense, so that the present tense endings contain the long vowel a, and then together with the person consonants, we will have this set of endings for the present tense of the Somali verb. And just by changing the vowels, we will be able to produce the past tense endings. So that if we instead use the vowel a, or the diphthong a, we get the past tense. However, in the two last forms, when the vowel is not at the very end of the form, but is followed by an N, the vowel is instead a long E, so that we get the suffixes ten and en. And if these endings are now added to a verb root, we get forms like these. This is a completely regular, very simple to produce verb, meaning sing, sings, where no other complications are involved. So it's very easy to learn the basic inflection by looking at this verb. There are some other verbs where there are additional complications, so you shouldn't start with just any verb. You should start with a verb that is really, really simple, like this one. And this is how the same verb then will look in the past tense, with the same consonants, just another vowel expressing the tense instead of the long a that expresses the present tense. So that was the basic facts about the inflection for person. There is, of course, a lot more to say, especially about different kind of sound changes in the verb inflection that make things a little bit more complex. And then, of course, there is more to say about inflection for tense, aspect, mood, etc.